All right, so this is absolutely wild. Now, I certainly didn't expect this to happen, and I'm sure that you didn't expect this to happen either, but this is absolutely insane. We're talking about Kyle Kulinski getting into a Twitter argument with Mark Cuban, yes. Ultra, uber rich, I don't know what you want to call him, like a venture capitalist or whatever you want to call him. He's on Shark Tank. I don't know if he's still on Shark Tank or not, but he certainly was at one point. And he is somebody, so I'm a huge, massive NBA fan. And so whenever I hear Mark Cuban, the first thing I think of, the Mavericks owner. And so that's what I first think of him as. But he's really just an insanely rich person all around. He's a big fan of Ayn Rand, actually. I've seen a clip of him praising Ayn Rand to the extent where he's basically saying that like he gets too excited when he reads her books and he has to put it down. He's a pretty weird guy, to say the least. Pretty weird guy. Now, he and Kyle Kulinski got into an argument on Twitter. Who would have thought this would happen? So, to preface this whole situation, he sends out a tweet saying, maybe Bernie should deal with Vermont first, from his Vermont updates. Quote, Vermont is one of just 10 states where the median household income actually fell in recent years. Then another Vermont update video. Bernie takes credit for a great federal CSFP food program for seniors, but fails to mention it's limited to Vermont seniors with incomes of less than $13.16 per month. He couldn't get Vermont to supplement it to support more in need. What's even sadder is that Bernie, in all his travels, couldn't convince anyone to be a taker of Vermont's offer of $10K to move there. Actually, not really sure he's referencing there. Says, I'm not anti-Bernie. In fact, I support some of his ideas, like $15 minimum wage. And yes, the way all politicians, including Bernie, play the media game is to promote programs that will never happen federally. I get that, but shouldn't he have some success in Vermont first? And then he says, if you can't dramatically impact a state of under 700K, how can you lead change for an entire country? And if I'm wrong on any of these, I'm happy to read anything you want to post, so I'll be better informed. So what the massive obvious mistake here that he's making is he doesn't understand how government works. He doesn't understand what federalism is, how we have two levels of government, technically three, with local governments as well, but really you've got state and federal government. So is Senator Bernard Sanders, is he responsible for the things that happen in Vermont? No, not at all. Because if you're part of the federal government, if you're representing the state of Vermont and the federal government, you're not the one controlling what happens in the state of Vermont. That's for the state legislature, which includes the state house and the state senate, which is the state congress, the state legislature, and it involves the governor of the state. Bernie Sanders is neither the governor, nor is Bernie Sanders, a state senator or state representative. So the fundamental problem with this statement from Mark Cuban is that Bernie Sanders is not responsible for what happens in Vermont because he's not part of the state legislature. He's not part of the state house, not part of the state senate, and he's not governor. He's a senator for the state that represents it in federal Congress. In fact, it's actually really looked down upon, and it's, what's phrased as kind of unrelated pork spending and bills if you try to do that for your own state. And so it's not looked as a good thing if you are to basically kind of try to route federal funds for states when it's not like a time of crisis. So that's actually something that's not even looked good upon in the first place, and so it just makes it all the more ridiculous. And then, I'm assuming when he talks about Vermont's offer of $10K to move there, I'm not really sure what exactly he's talking about there with $10K to move there. And he says he's not anti-Bernie. I'm not really sure about that one, to be honest with you. Again, I want to repeat that Mark Cuban is a very big fan of Ayn Rand. There's a clip of him saying that I think he named his yacht after one of Ayn Rand's books. I forgot. The name escapes me of the book. But, it's her big book that, everyone fucks with. So, Kyle Kulinski ended up getting into it with him a little bit on Twitter. Here's what happened. So, Kyle quote tweeted that tweet, and he says, somebody's afraid of paying higher taxes, 2 laughing emojis. And then Mark Cuban actually responds with this article, and we can actually take a little quick look at this. It's titled, The Most Patriotic Thing You Can Do, Bust Your Ass and Get Rich. says make a boatload of money, pay your taxes, lots of taxes, hire people, train people, pay people, spend money on rent, equipment, services, pay more taxes. Just keeps going on here, and it says, I don't care what anyone says. Being rich is a good thing, not just in the obvious sense of benefiting you and your family, but in the broader sense. Profits are not a zero-sum game. They are. Stop lying. The more you make, the more of a financial impact you can have. And then basically, I think the whole point of this thing is to basically say to pay your taxes, essentially. So be patriotic, go out there and get rich, get so obnoxiously rich that when that tax bill comes, your first thought will be to choke on how big of a check you have to write. Your second thought will be what a great problem to have. And your third should be a recognition that in paying your tax, you are helping support millions of Americans that are not as fortunate as you. So I think this is supposed to be the point of him linking this article that he has. The point he's trying to make here is like, yo, I'm all for paying taxes. I am just not, I don't really know what he's even really trying to say here, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure what the goal of what Mark Cuban is trying to say about Bernie Sanders, if it's not to say that I don't want higher taxes because I think it's going to be used, inefficiently or whatever, whatever the case may be that he believes. And then Kyle responds to Mark Cuban saying, very cool. What do you think the top marginal tax rate should be? Also, what should the capital gains rate be? And then Mark Cuban responds saying, using our current approach as a frame of reference won't work. We need new approaches to solutions. Then we model how to pay for them, saying we will raise taxes $200 billion, and then have politicians figure out how to solve the problem is the height of stupidity. So I'm not even really sure what he's getting at here, although if I had to guess and try to, really give my best guess as to what the fuck he's saying here, it seems to be the case that he's saying that it's not good to just raise taxes and things till problems are solved. Now, the thing about taxation is it serves multiple purposes. It just doesn't just fund the government. But there are also many other things that taxes do. But, probably the biggest one that taxes do is you're talking about wealth recirculation. So you don't want rich people having insane, unbelievable amounts of money because they just stash it and don't use it. And when they don't use it, the economy doesn't keep rolling. You know what I'm saying? It just sits there. The money just sits there in their fucking bank account. Whereas, someone like me or you, like, we're going to spend it on something, right? We're going to buy something. We're going to go out and buy, a Nintendo Switch or go get a pizza or whatever, go buy a new basketball, whatever, right? You're going to buy whatever kind of stuff. So you actually use your economy and keep your money in the economy and keep it going. So the problem with this statement, though, is Bernie Sanders has solutions that he's proposed, and he spent his entire career proposing these solutions. And unlike other people, like, he actually has bills that he's proposed that have these ideas fleshed out, including the amount of money that it's going to cost. So the idea that Bernie Sanders is just out there saying, let's just raise taxes and everything's going to be solved, which, again, by the way, I want to say that, yeah, one of the problems would kind of be solved by that because, again, we're talking about wealth recirculation. And the claim that there's no zero-sum game is the dumbest thing I've ever heard because, yeah, if you look at it between me and, like, Tim Cook or someone else, obviously there's not necessarily a zero-sum game there. But there are a shit ton of zero-sum games going on in life. Okay, you're going to encounter a ton of zero-sum games, and the biggest ones that exist are with the corporations, the CEOs, and the workers. That's where the biggest zero-sum game is. So when Jeff Bezos' net worth keeps going up, but his workers get paid nothing, then, that's a zero-sum game, right? Same thing with any other insanely large business like Apple. I don't even know how much Tim Cook makes. He probably makes like $160 million a year or something like that. But that you're looking at a zero-sum game because the money is split, the profits are split between the CEO and the workers, so it's a zero-sum game. And then Kyle just responds with a meme of Leo, just like, what the fuck? Like that's the point of sending that, because this tweet is just so ridiculous. And again, it doesn't really make any sense, and it just seems weird in general. But I don't know. I think Kyle was onto something. I think that he's right, that Mark Cuban just simply doesn't want to pay any taxes. But I also saw this down here. It says Vermont family income. The ACS one-year survey shows that the median family income for Vermont was $74,426 in 2017, Compared to the median U.S. family income, Vermont median family income is $535 higher. Like the median household income numbers, 2018 family income data will be released September 2019. So if you look at these numbers, Vermont, their median U.S. family income is higher than the average of the U.S. And in a 3-year change, it's up 6.93%. So, and actually what I should have led with and gave the first argument for is I should have said that I've never seen anyone claim Vermont is a bad state. This is the first time I've ever seen anyone do it. I've never seen anyone claim that Vermont is a bad state. I think that Sticks and Stammer tried kind of doing that in the second half of his argument of some sort. It was kind of weird that he was saying. He's like, oh yeah, we have great colleges and great places, but then they leave or something like that. And it's like, okay, I don't really get what you're saying. But I legitimately have never heard anyone try to say that Vermont is bad, because Vermont is actually a really good state. That's the thing. Like, it's a nice state. They've got really good economic situation. I believe even environmental situation, as well as, amongst other things. So I've never heard anybody be like, yeah, Vermont is bad, and therefore that's why Bernie Sanders shouldn't be president. The problem, and this is a big roadblock for a lot of conservatives, right? So they always have to find some reasoning to try to discredit his successes in association with Vermont. And, people like Ben Shapiro will be like, oh, it's very homogenous and there's just a bunch of white people there and the culture is the same. So that's the thing that I'm surprised by, is I've never seen the strategy of, we're going to say Vermont's bad. All I've seen is Vermont is hella good. We can't deny it. And so therefore we're going to say it's homogenous, a bunch of white people. But yeah, this is very interesting. I certainly never thought that Kyle Kulinski would be, I guess, having an exchange. I don't know what you want to say. I want to use the word kind of beefing, but I don't know if that's the right one. But having a back and forth with Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, who has won a championship, but Dirk did just retire.